Hey, you guys, I hope you have all been having fabulous Wednesdays, spending time with your families, getting some sunshine. I know I have been very recently. So, all right, you guys, tonight we're going to be talking about social skills. So we're actually not going to talk about social skills very much. We're not going to talk very much about how to help our kids understand other friends or understand how to socialize. What I really want to talk about tonight is what's going on in the brain that's causing kids to struggle to socialize in the first place. That's the most important thing, and that's foundational to everything else. There is so much good that can come for sure when we talk to kids about, how to respect boundaries and how to interact with other people. But if your child is struggling with these things, I'm assuming you've probably tried to help them understand all those concepts multiple times, and maybe they're just not quite getting it. And if that's the case, this is the right video for you. So make sure to share this with somebody that needs it. We all know a little kid that struggles with socialization, right? Whether they're, invading everybody's space, getting too close, talking too much, talking too loudly, talking about just trains and dinosaurs instead of what everybody else is talking about, or they get really bossy sometimes. All of that can be helped by targeting the brain function that's responsible for socialization. So, as always, before I dive into that, I just wanted to share one quick little story with you guys about one of the kids in our program, our online program, who's just gotten really cool progress recently. They were in regression for a long time, and it was hard and it was painful, and this mom was texting me at least 3 times a week saying, Jess, I'm tired. I don't know if I can keep doing this. I'm exhausted. It's too much. So finally we got out of regression. They had had so much progress, and then it all just fell apart because of regression, but we came out on the other side. And if you remember my last video, I talked about Sorry, that's my notification that I'm going live right now. We talked about the Moreau reflex and how kids can be really easily startled, whether cognitively or with sensory stuff if they're sensitive to really loud or sudden noises. So this little guy definitely had a really intense startle reflex when they started, and he went into regression, and everything was really terrible for a little bit. But he came out of regression. He's riding his bike for the first time ever. But one really cool thing that happened for him that I just had to share with you guys before I dig into this is he dumped gasoline all over himself the other day. They were at the gas station, and Mom asked him for help, and he pulled up on the lever instead of pulling the thing up and out of the gas tank, and it just splattered all over him. And Mom kind of described this scenario and framed it up for me, which I really appreciate, what it would have been like before doing Delta Genesis and, engaging in one of our online programs, is that he would have just melted down and freaked out, and it would have ruined the rest of their day. She said this was early in the morning, and I just kind of started panicking because I know that if this would have happened any other time, that would be it for the day. We'd have to go home and change clothes and take a shower, and he would just be so shaken up by the entire thing that we really wouldn't have been able to do all the other fun stuff that she had planned for the day. But, it shocked him a little bit, and he started tearing up because he had to walk into the gas station all covered in gas, and he was embarrassed and everything. But she said he really, she could see the thought process of him regulating his own emotions. So his startle response got triggered, or it should have been triggered, but it's not as profound as it used to be. And you guys, that is such a huge moment. He didn't have a meltdown. They went and they did all of their other adventures for the day. And she just saw so much of what could have been in that moment, which I think is a really cool opportunity for us to realize how far he's come in such a short amount of time. They just started week 10. And I think they might even be a couple weeks behind. So they're about maybe 3 months into this process so far. So, okay, anyway, let's talk about social skills. Why do kids struggle socially when other kids don't struggle socially? That's the question that we always want to ask when we have kids that are struggling with something, is instead of helping them find ways to cope with their issues or try to teach them other ways to socialize, we want to figure out, why is this kid struggling with socialization and this kid isn't? And the answer has to be brain function. And I know that sounds really obvious, but no one's talking about brains when we talk about these kinds of things. Even handwriting and emotional reactivity, we have to look at brain function. What is going on in the brain? So the big thing that I want to talk about with you guys tonight is this function called proprioception. So on our website, actually Mike did it. I want to give him all the credit for that. He wrote up kind of a little paragraph or two about every single function that we work with in the brain. And proprioception, the big long thing on our website about how important it is. So you can always check that page out. It's deltagenesis.org/the-science. It's pretty straightforward, but proprioception is so important for so many reasons. I've done a lot of videos on it in the past, but tonight I want to kind of specifically talk about it in terms of socialization. So proprioception is really just our brain's connection to our body, knowing the space that we're taking up in relation to all the people and all the things around us, our brain's ability to know that our fingers and our toes and our feet are still connected to us. So one thing that our bodies and our nervous systems are always doing is sending communication back and forth to each other. And really sometimes the toes and the feet are just saying things like, hey, just wanted to let you know I'm still connected. And the brain's like, are you there, feet? Are you there, toes? Are you guys still hanging on? And the feet and the legs, through proprioception, should be able to get signals back to the brain saying, yep, everything's still fine, we're still connected, no worries. So what happens is often in kids that are struggling with things like ADHD or anxiety or even things like oppositional defiance disorder or things like sensory processing disorder and even dyslexia, they have low proprioception. So as crazy as this sounds, the feet and the legs are some of the farthest things away from the brain. So when proprioception is low as a brain function, the feet and the legs become some of the hardest things for the brain to recognize and get those signals back saying everything's okay and you're still connected and we're all going to be okay. So when that happens, first of all, we're going to see some seeking behaviors often. So kids that are fidgeting all the time, they need to be moving all the time, or they want to be touching somebody all the time, or have their feet up in the chair with them all the time. That's their feet and their legs trying to get signals back to the brain saying, we're still connected, and you can tell that we're still connected because we're moving or because we're touching something. But when proprioception is low, we can't feel our own bodies, and we really can't even sometimes feel our own facial expressions. A really good example of this, and this is definitely something that you can think about with your own child, is if your child smiles super awkwardly in school photos, that is a great sign that they have low proprioception, because we should know what our facial expressions and what our nonverbal cues look like to everybody else around us. We should be able to feel them in our own body. So what you'll see is that, these kids that have really awkward school photos, they smile like normal people when they're really happy. But when you ask them to recreate that happy face that they make when they're actually happy, they have a really hard time with it because they're genuinely disconnected from their bodies. Even their own facial expressions are hard for them to feel in their bodies. So when we ask them to recreate that in a moment where they're not necessarily happy enough to be smiling about nothing, it's just a school picture, they can't recreate it. So at the very, very kind of primal, primitive level, kind of lower levels of brain function, we know that we can really only pick up on the facial expressions and the nonverbal cues and the body language of people around us because we can first feel them in our own bodies, like babies, right? If you smile at a baby, they smile back at you because we're hardwired to match and mirror the nonverbal cues of the people around us. So babies, obviously, when you smile at them, they're not thinking, oh, I better smile back so I can be polite. Hi, Dr. Carolyn, thanks for joining us. But they're not thinking to themselves, I need to smile back so this person doesn't think I'm mad at them, or I need to be polite. What's happening is they're matching and mirroring the nonverbal cues and the body language of the people around them. So when we can't do that properly, we can't feel our own facial expressions. We can't feel our own body language. What's happening is that people are smiling at us, and our faces are actually supposed to smile a little bit. The corners of our lip come up. It might not be a full smile the way that they are, but our bodies actually shift to mirror the way other people's body language looks, so we can recognize what it is in ourselves. Essentially, when somebody's smiling at us, our bodies smile, and then our brains recognize, I'm smiling, she's smiling, they must be happy because I know what that facial expression means on my own body. That doesn't make a ton of sense, and it's kind of a complex thing to explain, but we can pick up on the nonverbal cues and the social cues of other people because we feel them in our own bodies as we match and mirror them. The same thing happens like if you are taking a group photo of people and you've got the camera and you're behind the camera, and all of a sudden you're like, wait, why am I smiling? I'm not in the picture. Why am I smiling? This doesn't make any sense, and you don't realize you're doing it. It's because you have this huge group of people right in front of you that are smiling at you. And our bodies are just, like I said, naturally hardwired to mirror that in other people. So proprioception gets low, we have a hard time reading the social cues of everybody else around us. So I have a couple kids in program that they make jokes and then they look at me really, really intensely to figure out if I think that that's funny or not. And they do this kind of nervous laugh, trying to get me to laugh along with them. All of that stuff is just because of low proprioception. So if your child's having a hard time picking up on those social cues, it's very, very likely that they feel super disconnected from their own body. So what I want to teach you guys tonight is one super simple little exercise that we can do that is going to help them reconnect to their own bodies. We're actually going to literally increase proprioception. That little guy that I was talking about, that had that startle reflex moment earlier, he just gave this really cute, but I think really honest example of what it feels like to have low proprioception. So the exercise that we do is just standing on one leg, and I'm going to demonstrate it for you later, but he can't stand on one leg for more than about 2 seconds without falling over. We have made some progress. We're closer to about 15 seconds now, but in the beginning, literally like 1 or 2 seconds standing on one leg, and he would just fall right over. So we started at a lower level for him where he put his feet together and he put his legs together and he just tried to stand there like that. And he said when he did that, he told his mom, when I do that, I feel like I don't have 2 feet. I feel like I'm trying to stand on one big foot and I fall over. That's what low proprioception is. These kids literally cannot feel their bodies. So the really, really simple exercise that we do to improve proprioception is we want to stand with the hemispheric foot down on the ground and then the other foot up in the air like we're about to take a step forward. So you guys, this is really simple, really easy, and I think you're probably going to be shocked at how much your child struggles to do this exercise. Okay, so all you're going to do, like I said, you're going to put the hemispheric foot down on the ground and the other foot comes up like this. So if your child struggles with things like ADHD and emotional dysregulation, they have a hard time, maybe they're really impulsive, or they, especially most of the time, kids that struggle socially struggle more with right hemisphere function. So I want you to have your child stand with their left leg out and their right leg up off the ground, and you want to tell them, I want it to look like you're about to take a step forward. So not a total bend in the knee, you don't want it at 90 degrees or anything like that, but a little bend in the knee, a little bit up off the ground, and make sure they're not crossing the midline of their body, they're not bending that knee and kicking that foot back. We want it in a really natural, almost about to take a step forward position, and just see how long they can do that. So really, 5-year-olds should be able to do that for about 30 seconds, and 6 and 7-year-olds should be able to do that for a full minute, no problem. And if we're older than that, we should be able to do that on like a rocker board with our eyes closed, all kinds of stuff. But you're probably going to find that your child really struggles to do that for even maybe 15 seconds with their hemispheric foot down on the ground. So if you have questions about which hemisphere you think maybe is weaker for your child, or you want to talk more about proprioception, there are all kinds of other things that we can do to further increase proprioception. But I think that's a really quick, really easy exercise that you guys can start doing tonight, and I promise it's going to make a big deal for their social skills. One other really interesting thing about socialization, and then I will hop off here because I've been talking for a while, but a really interesting thing about socialization too is low sense of taste and smell can also be correlated to low social skills. We've had lots of kids in our program that come in literally cannot taste anything, can't smell anything. They're really picky eaters because of that, and they really struggle socially. And we'll see maybe proprioception doesn't improve, but slowly they start to be able to identify tastes and smells, and then they blossom socially and they just open up and things get so much better. At a very primal, very primitive level, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it, but think about how dogs socialize. Think about how other animals socialize. They socialize by sniffing each other to figure out, is this person going to be friendly? Is this person stressed out? Is this or other animal or whatever going to try to attack me? They can tell a lot of that by smell, and we're not doing that very consciously, but that's still happening in our brains as well. So working on proprioception and improving the sense of taste and smell, olfaction, both of those things together can make a huge, huge difference for kids that are struggling socially. So if you want to learn more about this, if you want to talk more about it, do more exercises, if you want to dig into which hemisphere we think is weaker for your kid, you can set up a free consultation with me anytime. deltagenesis.org/consultation. I'm not going to pressure you into doing one of our programs or anything crazy like that, but I just want to make sure that you have all your questions answered. And if one of our programs is right for you, that's great too, but I just want to make sure that you guys are getting all the help that you need, have all the answers that you guys are looking for. So don't forget, we are launching a brand new 2-week challenge for primitive reflex suppression every single Monday. So every Monday we start a Facebook group. You can get in on that, and it's just 2 weeks of the first 2 weeks of our online program. So it's about $500 worth of information that we're giving out for just $77. Huge change. We've seen kids change socially. emotionally, they're sleeping better, like all kinds of just absolutely ridiculously cool things happening in our 2-week challenge. So get in on that. But also we have 3 spots left in our June Jumpstart program at 45% off. So if you guys want to talk about any of that, if you've got questions, schedule a consultation, or you can call me anytime and we will just talk about it. Have a great night, you guys. I think we're doing this again on Saturday and talking about reading. So we're going to be talking about how to help your child improve reading without making them pick up a single book. All right, you guys, have a great night. Talk to you later.